Yeah, am I audible? One of the reasons I moved from business into learning and development was I had a good voice and people said, we could hear you long enough. Okay. My team used to joke that if I do a call in Mumbai, the team in Pune can hear it. Okay. So anyway, we could have done the wiring up earlier. But we are going to talk about something which I think a lot of people have talked about, or if there is no conversation today which is not happening without a conversation on AI. And to be honest, we are living in a world where of great threats and great opportunities. If anybody talks largely about threats or they are largely talking about possibilities, then they are missing part of the picture. And one thing that we realized was that if we really want to build a workforce that is AI driven, it's extremely important that how do we shift the conversations from threats to possibilities, because if you're always living under the threat of what will AI replace, and you see what's happening, not just people but even organizations, entire industries are at stress because of AI. But if you live there, then the ability to leverage possibilities will not be there. And that's where we are going to today talk about how we are trying to do this shift, this transformation really that is happening. And the first mistake that people can make when talking about AI is looking at it purely as a technology shift. And looking purely from a technology lens is something that you have to be careful about, because we are realizing that even the likes of Anthropic and OpenAI, they have now starting their own services companies. So it's very clearly realized that if it has to be an enterprise grade adoption, then as Mohit says, it's very also important that we understand the systems, because you can't do a successful agentic AI workflow without understanding the process and the part of it. So how do we go about this? And what we'll talk about is how we have taken what I love to call an ontological approach, not just looking at it as a technology, but looking at it from different perspectives. And what are those perspectives is what we'll talk about in the next 10-12 minutes, and I'll leave the floor open for questions because it's such a fascinating subject. Okay. The first thing we started off was by redefining jobs and skills to the new AI world. Because what AI was doing was bringing in new jobs and skills. Okay, we are already talking about a role like an FDE, a forward deploy engineer, which didn't exist till a year back. So we worked with a consulting firm, and almost a year and a half back, we initiated this process. So we looked at our job families, and we tried to create very clearly roles that are very relevant to the AI world. Okay, with very clear pathways, clear career mapping, identifying the skill clusters. Because also very important, we have to realize that the skill sets are shifting rapidly. And every time, if you expect that tomorrow a new product comes or a new role comes and your associate has to again start the learning, then it's going to be too taxing. So how do you ensure that your core jobs are mapped to the skills so that when there is a shift, there is only an incremental learning that needs to be done? That is extremely important. Otherwise, very easy that learning fatigue will set in. And that's where we spend a lot of time in building this, ensuring that clear pathways are there, new roles are defined as per year. And then we also deployed a AI-based talent management tool. Because what is also very important, especially if you know Tech Mahindra, sorry, I should have talked about that a little bit, 150,000 employees spread over 90 countries, about 1,100 clients, okay? It's very easy to, you may have skill sets, but they may be lying in a corner where you don't know, or you may have built skills on a new technology like Claude, the requirement may be somewhere where you may not be available. So how do you bring the visibility of skills needed and visibility of roles where those skills are required, so that the learners and where the requirement is that can be matched? And that cannot be done manually anymore, and we deployed an AI-based tool. So that was the very first step before we even began into the training program, designing the training and all of that. That's where we started. Then came the next stage of training. And over here we took a persona-based approach, because depending upon the persona, the AI learning needs differed. So leadership largely was about how do you do AI-led transformation? How do you lead teams where there is change and AI happening? Then for sales, it was largely about building awareness and application. For them, it was important to realize that how do I have an AI-led conversation with the client? I may not fully understand the regression part of it, the ML, neural networks, etc. But how do I have a more AI-led conversation with the clients? For the architect, of course, it was a very multi-level. We implemented a multi-level training program. A lot of proficiency skills needed very clearly for architects. For the engineering workforce, we brought in, and we'll talk about the 4-layer framework that we brought in for our engineering workforce and architects, where it was how do I grade it, go up. We'll talk about in the next slide. And then it was very important, especially for your enabling functions, for HR, for RMG or the workforce management team, for the CIO team, for them also to understand AI, so that when they are talking to business, when they are talking to delivery, the language is well understood. And that was, we felt, very important, so that the HR itself understood. And they needed that level of understanding. They didn't need to know everything there. So it doesn't become overwhelming for the people who are doing that. That is what we did. So a lot of persona based, and of course there was a AI 101, which was for all, everybody. But more important was this persona based thing that we did. Then the next thing was, how do we build a AI learning culture? Okay. And we implemented, before we go there, we implemented a 4-step AI framework, starting right from AI white belt to brown belt and blue belt, where we moved from basic understanding to applying that, putting into projects, and from there we moved on, being able to deploy that, do pilots, and then being able to move on into roles. So we built right from, like we have one in the martial arts space, we built the various belts, and people had to continuously demonstrate the value they are delivering to move up the belts. Without demonstration of the value, so there we ensured that we didn't get driven by numbers. So that's also another thing which we have to be careful about, because there's also this whole need of showing that we have 40,000 trained, 50,000 trained, and there is this huge need to show numbers. So while that is important, but as you are building up the layers, it's very important that even if you don't get the numbers, the value that you are getting out of that, the ability to implement, the ability to understand, because if I have to deploy an agentic workforce in as simple as a training solution, what becomes important, building the agent is easier. But how do I talk to my information security group to assure them that what I have built is meeting the security requirements, that while collaboration is happening, the data security is being maintained? How do I have that conversation, the CIO, with the ISG team? How do I have a different conversation with the business teams, who may be very worried about what is going to happen to my data which is going to get exposed? And that's a very different conversation. That's a very different skill that is needed out there. So as you go up the belts, it is not just about building the technology skills, but building that skills to navigate through the organization. Because whether you are doing it internally within your organization, or whether you are doing that for the client organization, you have to help. If you are delivering into the HR function of the client, you have to help that HR guy have a conversation with their information security group, so that to give them the assurance that what AI solution I am bringing in is not going to disturb and is not bringing in any vulnerabilities. So that is a very, very critical skill that we need. And we set up the AI capability school to ensure that we drive. So we set up a capability school. We had a set of internal educators. We also have a set of partners, 50 plus partners with whom we are tied up with. Very important is, how do we give tool access to people? So the whole philosophy was, there is so much of anxiety around AI. How do I convert that anxiety and make people inspired to experiment with it? And that cannot happen if you don't give access. And we all know the challenges of giving access to tools. Because you will have challenges from your security team, your data team, your CIO team because of licenses, token costs, etc., etc. So we have implemented a role-based access. Depending upon role, you get access to tools so that you can play with it. Because without that, it will not happen. Then, of course, the hackathons, etc., are there. A structured catalog is there. Very interesting is we are probably one of the GSIs who have got a dedicated university affiliated. So the Mahindra University, based out of Hyderabad, is affiliated. We are part owners of that. They are, of course, an independent university, but we work very closely with them in the research space. So our Makers Lab, which is our R&D wing, through the Makers Lab, we work with the Mahindra University, do a lot of research on quantum and some of the other AI stuff. Okay, a lot of focus on driving and building the mindset. Okay, key 3 competencies out there: curiosity, which is probably the toughest. Okay, but easier is adaptability and critical thinking. So we started with critical thinking because problem solving, we realized, was the most important skill to be built in this year. Because finally, it's about what problem are you going to solve for your client. What is the opportunity that you see in your client where you feel an AI solution will work. And for that, the ability to have critical thinking, the ability to be curious about what more is possible. And that is a lot of focus on that. And of course, the change management was very important. How do you bring in what's in it for me, especially in the initial few stages? How do you ensure that there are rewards which are linked to behaviors? Okay, not just linked to a completion of a belt, but linked to specific behaviors that are demonstrated. So we had rewards. Less rewards, but linked to behaviors, linked to real change. That slowly drove that. What did this lead to? Of course, some outcomes, and the training part is the easiest part of it. 80% of the workforce today is AI enabled. 84% of the client-facing workforce is AI certified. Okay, because that becomes being a IT services company, the client-facing workforce becomes very important for us. What are the outcomes that it is leading to? Okay, we are probably one of we are the only GSI which is part of the India AI mission. We built a sovereign LLM, one of the GSIs to build a sovereign LLM. We are not just doing it for India, we are also now doing it for a few of our clients in their respective languages. We are building again now domain-specific sovereign LLMs because the way forward we realize is not generic LLMs, but DSLMs, which is domain-specific language models is what we are working in. We've got a very strong pipeline of agentic UI use cases which are taken to our client. And very important is the shift in the overall learning culture that we are beginning to see. We remember about a year and a half, 2 years back, getting those numbers was a challenge. We had to put a mandate. We recently did a Claude certification drive, and in about a month and a half time, in 6 weeks time, we could do more than 10,000 plus. Okay, that's the kind of shift that's happened. Now we have got overbooking and we have to regulate now from about a year and a half back when we had to put mandates to get people forward. The way forward, of course, is how do you create transformational value for the clients, because what clients, while productivity benefits are definitely taken for granted that yes, AI will bring in productivity benefits, but what is very critical, very important is how do you bring in that differentiation value that will really be transformational for your clients. And that's where we are got a project called as Project Helix, where we are working on AI playbooks, accelerators that we are working on commercial models of agentic versus humans. When you have, you will increasingly have agents and humans working together. How do you build in those models of agentic and human pods? Because eventually what we see as a future is agentic and human pods working together to solve problems. So how do you do that? How do you bring in that culture of iterative change? culture of failing fast. So those are some of the elements that we are working on, because only then will you be able to bring in value that is experiential. With that, I'll close with a quote from our CLO Pramod. Okay, because as I said, it's threat and possibilities, and it is humans and AI. And I think the most important shift that has to come in is this and mindset. It is no longer about one over the other. It will never be, we will never, I feel, reach a stage, we believe, where it will only be possibilities and not threats. There will be no anxiety and only inspiration. That kind of a situation is never going to happen. So the crux in this world of AI-driven technologies, how do you come into this and mindset? Because even if you take technology, a single technology is not going to give you true business value. So your ability to integrate technologies, your ability to integrate domains, to do something meaningful, and similarly your ability to work along with agents. This and mindset, very easy, but that shift is the most important shift that we've been working on in the pace. So that's all I have got for today. We got 4 minutes, so I was very keen that rather than talking about theory, I leave the floor open for questions. So 3.5 minutes or so, questions.
So we are basically consumers of AI technology, especially from our end, companies like ours. And right now, there is no solution, as you rightly said, which is a complete solution. There are parts of solutions. And any investment in AI is an exorbitant investment, of which any ROI will take time and results will vary. In this situation, how do you come to a conclusion that, what should we even encroach in that space of creating it, or creating an in-house team of experts, or actually depending and being a user and taking up multiple small cohorts?
I don't know which industry you are from. You are from?
Financials.
Financial, yeah. So it depends upon the industry. For example, we are a tech company. And for us to be completely dependent on everything for the outside doesn't make sense. So it had to be a decision where we could build our own educators, because if I go and try to buy 10,000 licenses of some tool, you can understand, we're never going to get that kind of a budget. And especially because every 6 months, 6 months is far too much, every 6 weeks probably, there is a new tool coming up. So in that sense, it became very important for us to have an internal team of educators who can then build upon, and a team of partners. So our ecosystem play is very essential. You need to have a set of partners who are flexible and who can flex. At the same time, you need to have a core team of internal. So that core internal was very important for us. So again, it's an and approach. I think the answer is very easy. Everything is and. Okay. The crux is how do you manage the and? Because with the and comes dichotomies that you need to balance. But I don't think it's a buy only option. Then you will be heavily dependent, and how many partners you'll say. And if that is the approach you're taking, then you need to be very, very diligent in selecting your partners.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. One last question. We've got 1 minute left.
Hello. Sir,
I will take one and one. Yeah, quickly.
Just
hello.
one question, please.
Sir, thank you. Thank you very much for a superb session. Through the process of verification, validation, experimentation, and exploration, man did move from myth and magic to science and technology. Sir, what is your perspective pertaining to the academy when the entire world is metamorphosed into a tectonic shift? What is the role of academy in this regard, sir?
Oh, there is, academy has a big role to play in terms of research, in terms of forward thinking, if the academy is able to bring in that kind of an approach. But where today corporates need academy, largely is for research, largely is for building the right talent. So building the right talent and research are the two things where I see the academy playing a key role.
Sure. Thank you. One final question to the gentleman in the blue.
You get a chance. I kept deliberately brief answer so that you get a chance to ask a question. But I hope that answered your question at least to some, and we can talk later on. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Ketan here from Affinity. We have probably in terms of industry, we fall under EdTech industry. Now, based on the initiative that has been done, that we should get good amount of talent for our in-house builder, we have got Criteria Corp, one of the tool that we look forward for assessment and talent evaluation. Plus, we also have technical skills, that is the people manager, hiring manager, the HR who are there for taking or evaluating it. So how do you differentiate in terms of ratio? Like we should give more importance to a tool assessment that has been built with various experiences and the organization that are taking it, or we should also give equal amount of importance to the technical evaluation?
So the tool is definitely needed, especially for organizations where you have mass and where you have numbers. You need a tool to meet the numbers. But once you have narrowed the funnel using a tool, then you need a more detailed evaluation, then you need human intervention to then pick up the right. But the tool is needed, especially when you have a big number, and generally organizations like us will have large numbers. So you'll need the first level tool. Okay. Thank you so much. That was quick, sharp, but yeah, I'll be around if there's something to talk about. Thank you.